Okay, so that was your first deal, and now you completely pivoted, which is amazing. A lot of people, before I get into what you pivoted to, and we've already mentioned it a couple times, a lot of people, what they do is they'll sit in like kind of the arena that you're in for years, right? Or like that whole first deal, like go and get one property at a time and wait for the next one to come on the market, and they'll sit there for 10 years and realize 10 years down the road they're like, I only have three of these things. I'm nowhere near my original goal of whatever $20,000 a month income or something like that. And it's like debilitating. And I've seen it in my industry with the multifamily. People are getting stuck in like the small multifamily, like the duplexes and stuff like that. Like, if I work hard for the next 20 years, I can buy enough and 80 more duplexes, and then I'll be able to retire. I'm like, that sounds like horrible.
Right, right.
Why don't you just say focus and do 5 years and say really focused and try to find like four
One
20
deal,
units,
two
you
deals,
know,
yeah.
and then you'll get there in 5 years over 10 years. And but a lot of people they never make it past that plateau, that mental plateau, or that limitation. It seems like you flew right past it. When you did one deal and you're like, okay, we're scrapping that model, we're completely redoing this the right way. So let's get into that of what the thought process was to go to development, and how that's going.
Yeah, so I wouldn't necessarily say flew by because it was honestly it was my ego and sort of just talk like I wanted to control 100% of the asset. And so we built that first one, and then once I started showing it to people, showing it to friends, posting it, I had a lot of people started to reach out to me, and that they wanted to invest. And so we I sort of tried to figure out with a mentor what the structure can look like so to bring on investors and stuff. I originally had a goal of doing 30 properties in the next like 5 years. And my mentor had sort of pushed me to sort of ask me like why can't that get done like next year? And my mentor is was a short-term rental developer in the 80s and 90s, before like Airbnb even existed. And so he helped me put a model together that sort of helped me get to that. But on top of that, it was sort of just letting go control and like being fine with offering 50-50 with our investors. Where it's like like I take on their money, I develop them, manage them, everything's built in, and then it's a 50-50 split. I realized that me tying all my money up in my first couple projects that I couldn't build anymore. I could build one, two more, but not at the level that we're building at next year. So it's like there's a big difference between me building two, or yeah, two, and then having 100% stake in that, or building 24 and having a 50% stake in that. And at the same time, like we have investors that like we're making them happy. We're building a brand. We're going way bigger. We're going from like the mom and pop doing like two or four to doing 24 and building an entire brand around it.
Matt, you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, so that's kind of something that we're looking at doing now is the short term leg of the business and taking on investors for that and then partnering. Yeah, I apologize for just kind of jumping here in the middle. I don't know what you guys have covered, but reading through your bio, I know that you're heavily involved here in Asheville, North Carolina, which isn't too far from me. How'd you land on that market?
I originally had another mentor that sort of was in the Smoky Mountains, like the Gatlinburg Pigeon Forge area. That's where he had his rentals at. I think back in like 2010 is when he started. And I didn't want to get into that market. And even back then in 2016, when I was talking to him, I just the prices were going up, and the prices are still going up to this day. It was sort of a market that had similar. We found a market that had similar rents, where the competition wasn't ridiculous yet. And I mean, the more people talk about it, the more competition is going to rise. But that's
Yeah.
essentially what that was. It was we and I was engaged at the time. Asheville seemed like a city we could sort of like establish roots in. So that's sort of what we decided on was Asheville. Currently, we're looking at other markets still. Um, this is a good center point to the East Coast. So is the Smoky Mountains too. But a lot of people sort of drive into the. We're looking for a drive-in city was another thing, like an area where people are comfortable driving, because all the land we purchase is about 15 to 20 minutes away from downtown, where people are comfortable driving that without it being a hassle. Like they're not really looking to be like downtown where it's like walking distance to everything. So
Yeah, that's very close.
yeah,
How far are you from the Biltmore?
yeah. I live 5 minutes away from the Biltmore, like that, the
Wow.
entrance. But our first cabin is about 20 minutes away from Biltmore and 15 minutes away from downtown. Asheville's weird. Asheville's like a big spread out city.
Yeah.
Like you can drive 25 minutes and still be in the same city, which is not where I grew up. Like where I grew up is not like that.
Yeah, definitely.